Alright, so we're back with the Traxxas Nitro 4-Tech. In the previous episode, I had refurbished this one and tested it, and refurbished this one up to the point of an engine installation, and I need to decide on which engine I'm going to use. And since then, I had found the missing parts for this car. I knew I pulled an engine from it. I just don't remember where I put the clutch belt and the motor mount. And luckily I found them. So we can move forward with this third 4-Tech. First I gotta disassemble it. There's some parts that need to be replaced. Right off the bat I noticed that there's a different screw here where that pivot ball is. That tells me that the pivot ball is probably missing. And fortunately I do have one replacement for that, so that's something that I can fix. The other thing that I'm noticing is how many countersunk screws are all over the chassis where they're not supposed to be. You can see the difference on this brace here. You can see that they're regular button head and don't call for countersunk screws. The only calling for it is here in the top deck around the fuel tank. So I don't know if that damaged the plastics. I'm also noticing that this front suspension arm brace looks like it slightly bent this way, so might have to replace that, especially noticing this. So I don't know exactly where this stands, but I do know it needs some work. And another thing is that this servo horn, I think, is positioned incorrectly. I feel like no servo horn should be over the belt, or nothing should be over the belt, especially that there's no tensioner. This thing can flop around. You can see a little bit of wearing on top of the belt, but I don't know if that has anything to do with this. So definitely look into repositioning that to eliminate interference here. So those are the things I noticed right off the bat. Shouldn't be too difficult to get this back to a refurbished status. And I don't know if you've heard in one of my previous videos, I think about the HPI Drift RS4 Nitro. This is the car I crashed right into the crack in the parking lot and made this car do a front flip. It's like a stunt scene. But yeah, let's get this thing broken down and cleaned up, diagnosed with the broken parts, see what we have in-house to replace, and see what we need to order. Alright, so we got the breakdown complete, and this thing had nothing but countersunk screws all over the place. So some of the screw mount holes I thought would get messed up actually didn't get as messed up as I had anticipated. This is the worst one here on this pulley block, but I think that's still usable. So until that shows more signs of being unusable, we'll roll with it. The things that gave me the biggest issues were that A-arm steering block connection, and that's because in the steering block goes these sleeves that are threaded, and with the flat sides they fit right in the plastic of the steering block, but if you put too much Loctite, the plastic's weak enough so it'll just start rotating in there. I had to just rip off the arm so that way I could grip the ball, because the screw that was in there was flathead and it kept gripping the pivot ball. So I had to pop the arm off, get a good grip of the pivot ball itself so I could take that flat-headed screw off. And the brace, be quiet, the brace is not bent, and if it is, it's so insignificant it doesn't matter. The thing that's actually bent was the rod in this arm. So I just decided to rip it off since I got replacements. And the other steering block wasn't as bad, but you can see that the sleeves there have definitely rotated in the plastic. So good luck finding those. I'm gonna try to do my best to find some for a reasonable price and be able to get this thing back in working order. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and clean what I've got, set it up to be rebuilt. I'm gonna have to source some different screws just because I'm not gonna use all countersunk like there was before. It's the bottom of the chassis. This actually had a protective film or skin on it, the carbon fiber one, but it was starting to peel up on the front, so I decided just to rip it off. I'm gonna be cleaning the chassis anyway, so I figured if I get it wet, some of the adhesive might not work and it'll be flopping around, so I just got rid of it. But yeah, it's time to clean this stuff up. I don't know what happened here, but yeah, this is the status of the front bumper. It's just completely bent down and floppy. This is a bad design if you ask me. And this front belt is pretty shot. So I'm gonna be hitting up the boys from South Korea, see if I can get another set. And that's pretty much what I've got going on so far. So I'm gonna get these parts cleaned, source some parts to order, and we'll see where we're at. Alright, so I got the parts nice and clean and ready for the reassembly. I've got to order some new parts, so I'll leave it apart like this until the new parts come in, and then we'll start the rebuild. One of the shocks is bent, but I have another set, so we can replace that. I'm gonna use some new spur gears. Just these ones are a little more chewed than I feel comfortable using. So I've got one of the 41. I'm just gonna get a 45. I'm gonna replace the bumper, and I've already got those parts for that. So we'll continue this rebuild once those come in. But for now, I'll set this aside and move on because I've got other things to work on. Once this is rebuilt, we'll start thinking about what engines we're going to use for the Pontiac and this. I got to figure out what body I'm going to use too. I think I'm going to use this engine in one of them. I'm not sure yet. So we'll go over all that when the new parts come in, and yeah. So that's all I got now for the Fortec, but stay tuned because there's more coming.